welcome again to Excruciating Minutia, where we will be obsessing about sports, pop culture, politics, and other important things, but mostly sports. I'm Randy, and I'll be joined again by Steven today for our third episode of our podcast, where we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but right off the bat, let's get it out of the way, Steven. For anyone who listened to our previous podcast, as usual, my picks for the first two games of Wild Card Weekend completely in the toilet already. 0-2, off to a great start as always. That's pretty much par for the course.
You are, as I'm looking at it, you're actually not 0-2. You took Houston and you took Seattle. Well, Seattle covered.
Yeah, but I picked them. I do believe I was very strongly thinking that they would win the game. So I may have covered, but I don't know.
That's a win. That's a win. And because there's plenty of games that you bet and your team wins, but you lose the bet. So that half point hook, 2.5 points made all the difference in the world. So you actually went 1-1. So because we had the same, as I'm looking at what we wrote, because I wrote it down. The only pick we differed on was today's game, the early game, which I am currently winning and you are currently losing.
Well, I'm not actually losing, even though I'm pretty much been as productive as Lamar Jackson has been today. I wouldn't say I'm having a real hand in Baltimore's performance, but that pick is not looking so good. But going really quickly back to yesterday's games and the debacle of my picks, because you say I'm 1-1, I still feel like I'm 0-2. But you said the line we were talking about, that the line moved slightly yesterday to from to 2.5. Did it not?
Yeah, it went from when we had our podcast the other day on Thursday. We did that. I guess Thursday Thursday we recorded. Seattle at the time was 2-point underdog. They the line moved to 2.5, and that half point hook was basically what won it. That and the garbage time touchdown at the end. And also the fact that they didn't have a kicker. If you think about it.
Yeah.
Because didn't they have to go for 2 at the end, and that's what covered the game because Janikowski blew out his leg on the opening on a kick in the I think it was the kickoff at the end of the first half. I think is when he kind of his or field goal. I don't know what he was doing, but his something tweaked in his thigh.
Things like this that gambling legends are made out of, apparently. The little minutia of these games where things like that can all of a sudden change the context or the results and swing a line one way or the other. But I'm still surprised Dallas actually won a playoff game. They
did everything in their power to try to lose it.
Well, they'll get another chance next week, depending on how everything shapes out today. Obviously, the Bears, who are favored in their game, if the Bears do manage to win, then Dallas will be headed to New Orleans for a rematch of that Thursday night Thanksgiving game. I think it's going to be a little bit different this time around in a much different atmosphere than Dallas was facing that Thanksgiving night. So it's going to be a little bit tougher of a test, I think, than Seattle will be. So, but we're talking about today's games, and you mentioned we had different picks. You had gone with the Chargers
and not only did I go with the Chargers, I basically said it was my stone cold lock of the week.
I do believe you said that, and one of the reasons you mentioned was the fact that rookie quarterbacks do not traditionally do well come playoff time, or that they're riskier gambles. And you gave me a very interesting stat right before we went on today about Lamar Jackson, which he's not just a rookie, right? As you said,
youngest quarterback ever to start a NFL playoff game ever,
and that's a lot of playoff games. And
the other thing that I heard that kind of led me to make that pick was I heard I don't know where I read it. I read it somewhere that everybody who played Baltimore and faced Lamar Jackson for the first time basically said they were kind of surprised by his speed, and they would have done things differently if they really wanted to play them a second time, because they were like, we now we know how to address it. And here you see San Diego basically facing him a second time, and seems to be making quite a difference.
So far, I'd say that's a very good assessment of what's going on. As of now, and you're watching the game, we both have the game on as we're talking about it. As we're recording this, we're in the middle of the third quarter. You're on a little bit of a delay on what you're watching it on as I am, so I kind of get the spoilers for you. But as of right now, we're about halfway through the third quarter. Lamar Jackson sitting on a whopping 17 passing yards with one less pick than completion. He's completed half as many passes to San Diego. There you go. Still can't get that out of my head.
There you go. Yep.
Wherever they play. The Chargers, he's had as many passes to the Chargers. He's only thrown one more to his own teammates so far today, and a whopping 17 yards. That is not how you win in the playoffs. But this has just been an ugly game. Baltimore turned the ball over excessively in the first quarter. 3 fumbles, I believe, in the first quarter by Baltimore, and the Chargers really haven't been able to capitalize in a way you would expect them to. It's been a battle of field goal kickers so far. We have 5 field goals in this game, as Justin Tucker just hit one. So we're looking at 12-3 game. So this has just been an ugly game to watch. It's not been.
It has. I not only took the Chargers, I took the under. So
the under is
definitely looking good.
Under looking very good at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling really good about, just based on the way this is currently moving, about my Bears pick later today. That's making me uncomfortable because,
Well, I mentioned to you earlier that yesterday was National Bird Day, and I tweeted that it would, how could you not bet Seattle on National Bird Day? We have 2 bird.
Larry Bird?
Not Larry Bird. No. The birds with
avian
birds with wings.
Birds with avian birds. Okay, I did not know.
So you have
National Bird Day. I didn't know there was such a thing as National Bird Day. They have a day for
there's a national everything. There really is. But you have the Baltimore, you have the Ravens, which is a bird, and you have the Eagles, obviously, which is a bird. Of course, the Ravens, the Ravens aren't really doing well. So.
Well, I was going to say today, instead of National Bird Day, is more like National Can't Move the Football Day so far, at least in this first game. Hey, as they're now showing a graphic up there that there have been, what did I say? We're a little bit more than halfway through the third quarter, and there have been a total of 0 first downs so far. Baltimore moving in the wrong direction. This is just painful to watch. Hey, but it is Lamar Jackson actually just completing a pass, so that's noteworthy at this point of the game.
To the right.
Yes,
to the right team.
To the right team. That was a Baltimore receiver who caught that ball. Boy, that was just it was a side throw. It looked ugly, but it was effective, I guess. Watching this, it's everything you said about the rookie quarterback. And Tony Romo mentioned it at halftime that the stage looked really big for him, that it just maybe doesn't look ready, and makes you wonder. Harbaugh has Flacco. There's a guy who's done exceptionally well in the playoffs, and is a Super Bowl champion, has experience. You would think maybe they would bring him in, but Harbaugh is sticking with Jackson. I don't know if that's the right move at this point, but he seems determined. I don't know. I would think at this point, if you were going to bring Flacco in, you would have brought him in at the half, but he didn't. And I guess he's going to ride Jackson, win or lose, the rest of this game. So we'll see how that ends up turning out.
When was the last big game that Lamar Jackson won
It
of any consequence at any level?
Well, he won big games down the stretch for Baltimore. I mean, to get him into the playoffs, but in college, I mean, did he win anything?
Yeah, he had a very terrible final year in college.
Yeah. And since you're on a delay in about 10 minutes, you're going to see Justin Tucker miss a very long field goal. So that's still a 12-3 game as we speak. And John Harbaugh looking down at the ground, wondering what he did to deserve to be coaching in this crap fest of a game. This is not entertaining. We always talk about for anyone who has a Sunday ticket and watches the NFL on DirecTV or whatever, that they have the game mix. And usually in the first set of games, there's always a game or sometimes two that are not part of the main mix where they show 8 games. And we joke it's the game that's being shown in hell on the TVs there. It's always a fun game to try to figure out what game that is. There wouldn't be any options like that today, but I got to believe in hell this game is definitely on the TV because this is not.
It is. I will say this: you're Justin Tucker. I know it's a 50-yard field goal. You got to make that.
You do. I mean,
he was just named All-Pro kicker. Okay, the best kicker in football. It's a 50-yard field goal at home. You in the playoffs. You got to make that.
This is clutch time. This is when you got to come through if you're going to survive and advance. And they're trailing by 9, and that would have brought them to within a touchdown. Not that they've shown any inclination that they're capable of scoring a touchdown today, but
on offense, no, but at least on defense, it would give you the opportunity, right? So now, they're still 2 scores away. I just don't see.
Their defense.
I could be wrong, but I could.
Well, yeah, the defense has held the Chargers in check. I mean, even with the turnovers and relatively good field position all day, Phillip Rivers sitting on a little over 100 yards passing in the first half. Melvin Gordon, who got injured in the first half and has come back into the game, he and Austin Eckler, neither one of them are able to do anything on the ground. So the Baltimore defense is really, with their backs up against the wall, have stopped the Chargers from turning this into a blowout. So they're still in it, but it's like I said, it's just been a kind of an ugly game to watch. So here's to hoping that the afternoon game will be a little bit better than this. You'll see low scoring games touted as defensive struggles. That's not exactly what's going on here. This is more offensive ineptitude as much as it is great defense. I think it's a little bit of both.
Well, these teams both have very good defenses. I mean, San Diego's defense has gotten much better as the year has gone on. It probably had a lot to do with Joey Bosa finally getting healthy. That we do have 2 really good defenses, and we have 1 really bad offense on top of it. So, and that obviously would be Baltimore, not San Diego. Phillip Rivers, let's be honest, he has not looked great the last 3 or 4 weeks. And, he's missed some passes today. I just saw him before throwing to triple coverage to Mike Williams when, Keenan Allen was basically wide open on the other side of the field. I mean, it's, he's just making the wrong decisions a lot of times. So,
well, you'll see in a little bit. He made a good read there. The cameraman on the sidelines was wide open on that second down play, and he kind of hit him. So he was out of bounds, and he was a cameraman. So, that's
well, I'm not sure Lamar Jackson could do that at this point.
Lamar would have missed the cameraman and thrown it to an opposing cameraman, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. He would have thrown it to a cheerleader instead, perhaps. That might have been his MO, the way he's played today. But just an ugly game. But hopefully we'll see a little bit better action in the later games today. So with the Bears,
well, you have the vested interest in the later game.
I do, and I'm going to be watching this game, and I'm already dreading Is that a bad sign? I'm already dreading watching my team play in the playoff game because I've been so wrong already on what I thought was going to happen. It just goes to show you once you get into the playoffs, things change and narratives can change very quickly on what you expect and what a team is expected to do just off of obviously one game. I just am not feeling good about my Bears pick, but I have to stick with them there.
Well,
that's my team. So
it is your team, and I will give you the positive news, which is that Rex Grossman is not the quarterback. So
and neither is Jay Cutler.
I believe it wasn't, and neither is Jay Cutler. That is correct.
John Fox.
I just saw Gates catch a pass. I mean, it's nice that people that are 206 can still play in the NFL.
Antonio Gates did he not retire at the start of the year, and then they kind of talked him out of it because they had injuries at the tight end position, and he decided to play.
Yeah, when Hunter Henry got
hurt.
Yeah, Hunter Henry blew out his knee, and they were like they didn't have anybody else, and they asked him to come back, and he did. I just read something. Is Hunter Henry may return at some point in the playoffs? Did I see that right?
You did see that correctly. I had seen that they had activated him, I believe, from the PUP list. Not active today, I don't believe, but he's somebody who could, I guess, in theory, play for them. The Bears activated. Who was it? The lineman who was hurt. I'm blanking on the name. Was it Howie's kid who was hurt for them at the start of the year? Was put on the PUP list and is now back to play for them for the playoffs.
I'm not familiar, so
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not familiar.
I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about here. This is not just a fever dream. I know the Bears activated somebody. Who did the Bears activate? They activated Kyle Long. That's who it was. Long had been out.
Oh, right. I did see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
They activated him from injured reserve, and he's going to be playing this week. So back just in time for the playoff push. And by the way, since you're on a delay, that is the Chargers now actually attempting to get into the end zone. They're leading, like I said.
Yeah, I just saw Melvin Gordon bring it down to about the 1 yard line. So
if they can punch it in
yeah, that's game. That's game. There's no way that the Ravens are scoring.
Is this the soccer equivalent of going up 2-0? If the Chargers score here, where it's kind of like, yeah, that's probably game. Because we're not scoring.
No, I would say 2-0. The funny thing about soccer is they say that 2-0 is sometimes the worst score because it gives the leading team a little bit of a sense of security, and it makes the other team more desperate. But they'll take risks, but they can be dangerous. The thought is typically when you're at 2, continue to play and for that third goal, because 3-0 is really that point at which a game is pretty salted away in soccer.
So we're not
at the pro level anyway. Not I wouldn't say that was the case at like the high school level or in the the rec league level. But definitely at the pro level, there are plenty of, you still have a percentage, probably around, 15 to 20% that you could win a game down or at least tie it down 2-0, but 3-0, the difference is pretty astronomical.
You follow soccer a lot closer than I do. So I just usually know that, it's not a high scoring competition. So usually it doesn't take a lot to make leads kind of unreachable. But boy, like I said, it feels here like if the Chargers can get into the end zone. And again, you'll see we just had a play at the end of the third quarter that looked like a catch.
Looked like he was
in. Like a touchdown.
Well, they gave him the catch, but they said he wasn't in, but it looked like he rolled in before.
Yeah, but
Yeah, before he was touched. I
NFL
agree.
officiating.
I agree. My guess is they'll be reviewing that while they're changing sides here for the start of the
I would
fourth
hope
quarter.
so. Except, NFL officiating is just, it just continues to be. That's one common theme we talked about over the course of the year was just how bad NFL officiating was, and it was inconsistently bad. I mean, it was which they miss calls, they miss obvious calls, they overturn things they shouldn't, they don't overturn things they should, they call ticky tack fouls in some instances and blatantly miss things that seem to be very obvious. The only thing consistent about NFL officiating is how inconsistent it is, and it feels like it's been that way ever since I was a kid, and that's been a long time. So,
Well, I think part of the problem is you have these athletes who are, in their 20s, maybe their early 30s, and they're tremendous athletes. They're fast. The game is a fast game, and you've got guys in their 50s and 60s officiating it. So, it's not uncommon that if an official is going to be out of position or he's not going to be able to see what we see because he doesn't have that angle. I mean, there was a play in yesterday's game where Russell Wilson was sacked, and it was a blatant face mask on the play. Not that it probably was going to make any difference in the game, but they just missed it. I mean, it was like his whole head got yanked around, and but when you look at the angle that the referee had for that position, and keeping in mind that some of the referees are not really supposed to be watching the ball,
that's true.
right? So they wouldn't necessarily see that. They're looking at, things throughout the so we sometimes lose sight of that, that there might only be two referees actually looking at the ball. The other referees are going to be concentrating on, on the line and in the secondary, to look for pass interference and such. So, but yeah, it has been, I will say it has been bad, but I didn't think yesterday was too terrible. And today hasn't been particularly bad either. I haven't felt like they've missed any calls.
Well, the Chargers have had to use a
this
challenge because you were talking about them reviewing that as I'm looking at literally replay after replay. Ironically, the side replay showing an official staring right at the play as it develops. And it does look like, because the ball literally just has to break the plane. That white line, if any part of the ball crosses over into that white plane, that white plane where the goal line is, that's a touchdown. And boy, looking at that replay,
the white line, the one thing we always have to remember is the white line is part of the end zone. That's the easiest way to describe it. So, you get over that front line, you're in the end zone, and you know what it is. It's really hard to figure out exactly when he touches the guy who's rolling.
If you looked at this replay, and again, you're on a delay. Spoilers. Even though that replay really does look like that ball is over the white when he gets touched, that they didn't overturn that, so that's not going to be a touchdown.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay. It's not blatant, and it's hard to figure out exactly. And I think we've talked about it before. I'd much rather the instant replay be used to correct egregious calls, but something that's kind of really close, I'd rather they stick with the call on the field.
Well,
anyway.
This is going to be a bit contentious, as you're going to see in a minute.
Are they? Did they fumble the ball in the next play or something?
A little bit more dramatic than that. Yeah, if you're a Chargers fan, you're going to be really, really ticked off right about now, I'm guessing.
Oh God, it's a pick. I'm guessing you're telling me it's a pick
No,
six.
not exactly. But you're close. You're very close. Let's take a look at this replay.
Are you telling me my under bet is looking better?
Well, we're going to have another replay, and we're going to have another. This one won't have to be challenged because this will be a scoring play. But yeah, that's not. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. So yeah. Now that replay, looks like I looks. And again, we're talking about and CBS gets the graphic wrong and gives the Chargers the. I'm not sure what's going on here. CBS, because I have the television muted as we're watching this game, and the CBS is showing the
Yeah,
Chargers
that's why.
scoring, even though that's obviously looks like a fumble and a Baltimore touchdown. Except when you look at the replay, it looks like Gordon is.
That looks like a touchdown. I'm sorry. That looks like he gets to the goal line, the ball hits the ground, he still has it in his hands, and then hitting the ground causes the fumble.
See, I'm gonna tell you what this is gonna end up being.
Oh, that's what they call. You know what it is? Because the call on the field is a Chargers touchdown. That's why they give. That's what they just called it. Yeah, I'm watching it. So they called the Chargers touchdown.
That ball almost was coming out, though. That's the problem. But is he? So here we have multiple scenarios. Is he down? Is he? But he's not really touched. So can the ground still cause a fumble or can't cause a fumble? Like the NFL changes their rules with possession. It feels like so often. I still feel like the ground can't cause the fumble. So.
Well, the reason he dove is because his foot got hit by a defender. So that technically that would have been a tackle.
So there's multiple ways we can go on here. They could rule that's the Chargers touchdown, that he broke the plane, still had possession. They could rule that he was down by contact before he broke the plane, in which case we'll be looking at 4th down for the Chargers. Or they could rule that this is a fumble, in which case that play continued, and I'm guessing that would mean that's a Ravens touchdown. And I guess
the question is, did they blow? If they blew the whistle, it's not a Ravens touchdown. It could be a Ravens ball.
And then it could be a Ravens touchback.
It could be the Ravens
if it's
ball.
A fumble into the end zone.
Yes.
But either in any case,
correct. They did recover.
In any case, what I hate about this is that right now, just based off of the last 2 plays we've seen, what may end up being the defining moment of this game is going to be determined by officiating. And I hate that. And replay officiating on top of it. But it seems appropriate. Like I said, the way this game is gone, it would be appropriate that it's going to get messy and cloudy and ugly at this point, because this whole game has been ugly. So this isn't really a shock that this is kind of happening at this point. And we're watching it unfold in real time.
I always had an issue with the way that football happens anyway, in that, it's so arbitrary where they place a ball every play. And so they place the ball and then they have to mark it on the hash, and it's like, how accurate are they? And it's
spoilers.
And then now we're getting to we're looking at like millimeters here.
Okay, don't pause whatever it is you're watching. Okay, so that way you don't know.
Okay.
So spoilers. We just had a bunch of scenarios. Which one of those is the least likely you would have called?
Ravens touchdown.
Okay, that's not what they called, but they overturned it. Now it doesn't matter. Melvin Gordon finally does score, and it's a touchdown, and the Chargers are up. And now everything that happened in the last couple of plays doesn't matter anyway.
So they said he was down by. So they said he was down by contact short of the goal line.
Yes, and I'm not sure.
Okay,
that was the right call, but you know what? At this point, I feel like.
Is that like a makeup call? Is that the equivalent of the NBA makeup call? It's like, it's 50-50, but we don't want to give the Chargers a touchdown, but we don't want to give the Ravens a ball. So we're going to split the middle. We're going to split the difference. We'll call it here. And if the Ravens stop them on 4th down, they stop them, and if they don't, then
maybe it's a makeup. Maybe it's a makeup call for the. I thought it should have been a touchdown on that play before on 2nd down. Maybe it's the makeup for the earlier call that they maybe didn't get right. I don't know. I feel in the karmic scheme of things that this is what it should be. And now the Chargers are up by 17 points, which might as well be 170 points the way Baltimore's moving the football. So, and John Harbaugh looks very perturbed at this point. And the question will be, will we see Joe Flacco?
Well, he should look. He should look perturbed, but he's probably perturbed at the wrong thing. He should be angry at how bad his offense is playing. I mean, when you're a defense and you've got no, they went for. Oh, I see what you said that they went. Yeah, it was 17-point lead. I didn't realize
they went for two. That which I do believe they were up.
Oh God! I just saw the play. Mike Williams must have been open by 25 yards,
which is hard to do on a 2-point conversion, to be open by that much. But he was, and he was so open. I believe even Lamar Jackson would have found him on that play. He was so open.
Nah. That's just crazy talk. Lamar would have overthrown him or underthrown him, or he still would have found a way to throw an interception.
Yeah. So, and I guess that is the two.
Or that guy would have been that open, and Lamar Jackson would have pulled the ball down and run it and got
crushed
tackled
at the half-yard line by some line.
Yeah, exactly.
He would have been. He would have maybe turned into Alan Hearns at that point. Boy, that was gruesome, huh?
Yeah.
The injury from yesterday.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, that was. I'm always a fan of a good hit. That just was. It wasn't a dirty hit or anything. It just, he kind of twisted him up, and that was bad. Is that going
to be a career ender for Allen?
I don't know. It sounded like it was a dislocated ankle, maybe broken. You know what? Modern medicine is pretty amazing.
We can rebuild
these guys.
We have the technology.
Yeah, I mean, we're right. They were talking about it in the first game yesterday with Andrew Luck, and they said that after he had his shoulder surgery, he said this is the first time in his career, and I don't mean just his pro career. I mean his high school, his college, and his pro career, that he is throwing without pain. Wow. Think about that. So, no wonder he's having a great year. He was good. If he was in pain the whole time while he was, good in college and good his first few years in the NFL, that explains a lot. So, and it's amazing because injuries like that, in the old days, a bad shoulder injury probably marked the end of your career. There was no coming back.
Modern medicine has changed.
And look at what happened with Gale Sayers, right? With his knee, right? If that had happened 30 years later, he would have been out a year, come back, and been probably just as good, if not better.
Instead of a career ender, which essentially, it didn't end his career, but it ended his effective career, essentially.
Yeah, it really did.
Mentioning the Colts from yesterday, Luck had a very nice game, a very big game from Marlon Mack from their rushing attack, and Indy they look like a scary team, and they added some very good pieces defensively, which was a big part. And the other part was that Andrew Luck was just getting annihilated. They just couldn't protect him those last couple years, leading to some of those injury issues he had. And their offensive line has just been much, much improved this year. And Luck has been able to stay on his feet, which has been a huge part for why Indy has been successful and why Luck has been successful. And Indy will be headed to play. Are they going to be playing
Kansas City? It has to happen. They have to. They're the 6th seed, so they have to play the 1 seed.
They will be at Kansas City. Boy, we just not to get into early picks already, but we are always questionable on Andy Reid in the playoffs. I don't know if I'd be picking Indy, but that game may be more interesting than. I'm sure the line is going to be pretty heavy in Kansas City's favor, but the Indy team that showed up yesterday looked really good, and they're going to pose a threat, obviously, to Kansas City when they play them. It doesn't matter. Whoever I pick is not going to win. So if I'm going to go with Kansas City, just go ahead and get your money on the Colts, at least covering, probably winning outright. But
yeah, I don't know how big the line's going to be. I mean, as you go further on into the playoffs, the lines typically get smaller and smaller. And I don't know. I just my guess is that line's probably going to open somewhere around 5 points, maybe 6 at the most. And you've got, you have two very good offenses. I think Kansas City's offense is better than Indy's, but Indy is probably a little bit more balanced. And especially with Kareem Hunt not playing anymore. But Indy's defense is far superior to Kansas City's defense. It's not even close. But Kansas City's a tough place to play, and especially in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely.
God, I'm just watching Lamar Jackson just get destroyed almost play after play.
They just
the Ravens the Ravens fans look miserable.
Look completely despondent. They look like they know their season's over, and they just don't know what to do other than accept it and start. It's those stages of grief, whatever stage of grief it is, when you realize your team's just not coming back. And again, Joe Flacco is remaining on the bench. So that's just not happening. I'm not sure what Harbaugh's waiting for. I'm all for not pulling somebody, not ruining their confidence, giving a guy a chance, not doing the quick hook. But, it's not like we're in the middle of the season. This is win or go home. And it's obvious Jackson is not moving the team. And you have to do something to shake it up, or you're done. At this point, the Chargers, they have a good running game when Gordon is healthy. And again, he got hurt a little bit earlier, but he looked good enough on that touchdown when he got into the end zone. So I think they're going to now try to just work that clock down. And even if you brought Flacco in, I don't think it's going to make a difference at this point. I think now we're
honestly on first down. I think what they should do on first down is punt the ball back to Baltimore. I think that's their best bet. I mean, as bad as Baltimore's offense is bad, just give it back to them. We don't really want the ball,
because you know what? If you have the ball, bad things could happen on your end. You could throw an interception, a pick six, a fumble. Give it back to Baltimore and let them go 3 and out again. That's an interesting strategy, Cotton. Let's see if that would pan out for them. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Baltimore having the ball is not really a bad thing if you're the Chargers, because it's just eating up clock and not really doing anything with it. So,
put the ball back in Lamar Jackson's hands. That's your best chance of victory
for the Chargers.
For the Chargers.
Never a good sign. People have not headed to the exits yet, though. They're still hanging around. The faithful are not giving up the ship quite yet. So my guess is it's just going to take another.
Yeah, because you know why?
It'll be over.
Well, the problem for the Ravens fans is they don't want to give up on this, because what do they have then? They get ready for Orioles season. That's going to be horrific.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and that actually will be the subject of our next podcast. Is going to be, we're going to delve into some because football is not the only sport. Obviously, we are in the hot stove portion of the baseball season, and we have big money riding on free agent signings, bets between yourself and myself, legal bets, friendly bets, right? Big money bets. We are
yeah. We'll get more into that in the next we'll get more into that in the next podcast.
Yeah, I think,
but I will say I don't know that it's a hot stove. It seems kind of a lukewarm stove.
It's been very lukewarm. But again, something we can discuss about, because I think it's probably time to call this one an episode. Is I'm not really sure how much more of this game I can watch. I think I may need therapy watching this game afterwards, because this is hurting my psyche as a football fan. This is not what I'm supposed to be enjoying. Come playoff time, I'm supposed to be watching.
Are you dumb? Are you dumber for having watched this?
I maybe not dumber. I just feel something. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed. I feel, what's the line from Billy Madison? Yeah, maybe it is. I feel dumber from having experienced this, but
no, that's the line.
I feel dumb.
Yeah, that's the Billy Madison
for
line.
having picked Baltimore. It's not Baltimore's fault. I just feel dumber for myself. And what did I say? I want to say from the last podcast, I think my comment was, that I thought the Chargers might be the team to beat in the AFC. And then I kind of backed away from it over the last couple of weeks to the point where I was picking against them. So, of course, next week they'll be traveling, assuming they win this game. They'll be facing New England, correct? And
That's correct.
maybe that's going to be my pick. I'm probably going to go ahead and whatever I pick will be wrong. So anyone listening to this who wants to make money, just take whatever I do, and it's the Costanza. Just do the opposite, and you'll probably be okay at that point, because I have an incredible knack of knowing what I need to do, and yet somehow or another doing the exact opposite of what that is.
Well, I will say that this is the best defense that the Chargers will face until potentially the Super Bowl. Right? There's not another defense in the AFC that's anywhere close to as good as
New England's. New England's is definitely not. Indy's is good.
Nope.
Better than you would have expected, but definitely not as good as Baltimore's was. And yeah, it would be a Super Bowl matchup with, potentially with the Bears, or the Rams could have the personnel to put a really dominant defensive outing out there. And the Saints defense has actually been much better in the second half of the season than they were at the start. These are better defenses, but again, Baltimore probably not better than the Bears, but better than anyone else from the NFC.
Correct.
But better definitely than anyone that'll be left in the AFC. So they, maybe the Chargers might be. Could we be looking at a Chargers Kansas City third meeting for the AFC title? That's a very strong possibility, I think. So, but stuff for us to talk about in the future. Obviously we'll know more as this game develops. So I think as the clock is running down in this Charger game, that I think we safely can say that they're going to be advancing, which means that after you listen to this and Baltimore makes some miraculous comeback again, you can point and say, go with the opposite. But I feel good about this one, that the Chargers are moving on. So.
Yeah, one final thing before we move on to the national title game. I just saw something come across Twitter that the thing that's trending right now is how bad the officiating is during this game and all these terrible replays. And, JJ Watt is getting involved and just being like, God, this is just terrible. They just can't, being bad official is one thing, but having video replay, video evidence slowed down to, the millisecond practically. And you still can't.
So it's not just us looking at this going, what's going on here? It's not just us. So we're joined by others, apparently. It's nice to know that we're not alone in thinking that the officials just can't do what they need to be doing correctly.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And there's also been a whole ton of tweets from Ravens fans begging for Harbaugh to put Flacco into the game at this point. So, which is not going to happen. It's not, you're not going to do that with.
Well, there's not at this point in the podcast, at this point in the game, there's 9 minutes left. The Chargers, I believe, are in position to kick another field goal, and that'll make it a 20-point game. And they're showing Joe Flacco on the sidelines as we speak, and he's still got a wool cap on. And I don't believe you can play in a wool cap. So I think that means...
Yeah, not since the days of leather helmet. All right, let's move on to our final topic here for this podcast. Let's look at the college football championship game, which goes off tomorrow between Clemson and Alabama.
This brand new matchup of teams we've never seen play before. That I'm really excited to see this contest between teams that just never get a chance to play one another in games that mean anything, right? Or have I? Oh no, I've been asleep for the last 4 years, because this is what we see every year now in college football. And forgive me if I'm not as excited.
You do, but it's I won't.
Yeah, I know you have your thoughts.
Yeah, but you do. But the one thing about college football is that the players change so quickly. guys are relevant in college for maybe a year or two, and then they're off. If they're really good, they're off to the NFL. So, a lot of the players that were in those matchups aren't there anymore. Just like when they meet again next year, a lot of the players from Alabama won't be there because they have a lot of older players. Maybe some of the Clemson players, they have a lot of freshmen on that team, so those kids will be forced to stay in school. Yeah, it's and this is the fourth year in a row that they've met in the college football playoffs. The third of the last 4 years that happened in the final game. So they've in the two finals they've split them. So this kind of is the rubber match of the finals between these two. Just to clarify things, for our picks in a moment. Alabama is favored by 5.5. The over under is 78, or excuse me, 58. 78. That was I don't know if you saw this in the Alabama-Oklahoma game. I'd never seen a line like that. The over-under on that game was 80 and a half.
That's a high line. Especially, yeah.
It finished under by a half a point or by a point and a half or something like that. It was really... Actually, no. Wasn't it 45-35? Wasn't that the final? Something like that. I don't know. It did not go over, but it was close. 80 and a half. That's crazy.
For such a high line, basically.
Yes. Yeah. I've never seen a line that high. So anyway, your thoughts on the game?
I'm going to be rooting for Clemson because I'm just tired of Alabama, and I'm pretty sure Alabama's going to win, and I'm pretty sure Alabama's going to cover. The Alabama just continues to have the best team in college football, and Clemson looked really good, but they had a few moments this year where they really looked vulnerable and beatable. And I didn't see that really out of Alabama to the extent I did Clemson this year. They're both really good programs. They're both the best two teams in the country. It's the right two teams playing for the national championship. I'm going to just have to go with Alabama. And as far as the line goes, what did you say the line was on this one? It was the over under 5.5, and the over under was
over
58.
Over under was 58.
I feel like it's going to be. I'm gonna go with the over, and I think Alabama's going to cover, and I think they're going to win, and I'm going to feel really, really discouraged at the end of the game, basically, because I'm not an Alabama fan and I'm tired of watching Alabama in the national title game. It's fan fatigue is what I saw it described as. And yeah, I mean, I'd like to see something new. Of course, it would help if other teams would play better and beat them. That would help to get new teams at the national title game.
All right, I'm going to throw water on that. I want to see the two best teams, and these are the two best teams. And I don't remember anyone talking about fan fatigue when in the 80s it was the Celtics against the Lakers every year. No one talked about that. It was like, oh, it's that was a great matchup every single time.
Point taken.
There
are different levels of fan fatigue. Maybe I didn't have so much of a problem with that because my dad was a Celtics fan. So watching the Celtics face the Lakers, it was different because there was rooting interest in our household growing up because my dad he'd root for the Celtics and I was a Bulls fan. And until Jordan got there, they were pretty irrelevant. So it became a passion to root for the Celtics because, that had a certain dynamic, I will say, that brought that isn't there in Alabama and Clemson necessarily, because the Celtics and Lakers were so different in the approaches and the cities, and you had the Boston, more of the blue collar, old school type feeling, and then you had the Lakers with Showtime and celebrities and glitz and glamour, and it was really easy to pick a side, even if you weren't a fan of one of those two teams. To say, I'm I'm a Celtics backer because I hate seeing smug Jack Nicholson on the sidelines of every Lakers game, fair weather fans and celebrities, and I'm going to root for the Celtics. Or you were enamored by the flash of the LA glitz, and you were a Lakers fan, and like I said, Showtime and all the rest of that. And it was a lot easier, even if you weren't invested in those two teams when those finals came along, to like I said, to get involved in it and get emotionally involved in it, and seeing it repeat as a great rivalry, which it was. I mean, great rivalries make for great sports, and rematches and multiple meetings are not a bad thing. I think you're seeing some of that fatigue a little bit with NBA fans with Golden State at this point, on a completely different topic. Tired of seeing. I don't think anyone, other than Golden State fans, want to see Golden State in yet another NBA championship. When the Bulls were a dynasty during the Jordan era, I'm sure there was a contingent of people out there who were tired of seeing the Bulls. With Alabama and Clemson, I don't know. There are lots of people that don't like Alabama, but I don't know if they quite have the other side of the coin, because I'm not sure you see I hate Alabama, but I really can get behind Clemson. I think it's another one of those, well, it's Clemson. And maybe that's why it doesn't feel quite like the Celtics and Lakers. But I
Oh
know.
my God.
I know. It's,
Holy crap.
as we're still talking, Baltimore actually did get on the board with a touchdown. Michael Crabtree with a touchdown. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
He was
yeah,
open.
I will say, going back to the best two teams theory, you're right. These are the best two teams, and that's who you'd want to see play. It's going to be, just from a technical standpoint, a great game. I'm just probably going to be aggravated at the end, saying I have to live another year with Nick Saban and Alabama as your national champions, because I think that's what's going to end up happening. But
Well, the alternate would be, oh, great, we end up with it. Would you want a national title game of Oklahoma against Notre Dame? I mean, those teams were not as good, and I want to see the best teams. I don't, if Golden State is the best team and they're the best team during the regular season and they make it through the playoffs, then they deserve to be there, and I'm always okay.
One day
with that.
we'll have a discussion about that, because the NBA is a whole different animal with how the NBA what it has turned into with the super team and the free agency and players moving to other places to team up with other players. I mean, that's a whole discussion for a whole other day, which is different than college football, where, again, Alabama is a great program because Saban recruits consistently well and coaches well and has built a dynasty. And it's easy to forget that Alabama was just irrelevant. After Bear Bryant was gone, and they went through a dark period where, Alabama football was nothing like what it is today. It was.
They had a good stretch with Stallings as their coach.
Nowhere near the success.
I believe he won it. He
did.
He won a national title, at least one. So I don't think it was that bad. I mean, it's not like it's not like the. It's not like Army or Yale, who, have basically been irrelevant since, the mid 40s, but they were, the Army was a power in the 40s. Yale was a little earlier than that. But I wanted to discuss one of the things you said, that you felt like Clemson had some close games this year. They had one close game. They barely beat Syracuse, which ended up not being that bad of a game, because Syracuse ended up being a lot better than everyone thought. So they beat Syracuse by 4. Their following games after beating beating Syracuse by 4, they beat Wake Forest by 60. They beat NC State by 34. They beat Florida State by 49. They beat Louisville by 61. They beat Boston College by 20. They beat Duke by 29. They beat Clemson by 21. Or, I'm sorry, South Carolina they beat by 21. They beat Pittsburgh by 32. And then they just beat Notre Dame by 27. So none of those games, with the exception of the Syracuse game, which happened in September, were particularly.
I completely
close.
feel like I did not see Clemson be that dominating. So that's just that's a perfect example of you get a perception of something where the reality doesn't mix with it. Yeah, I did not realize it had been that dominant over that much of a stretch, apparently. But yeah, those facts bear it out. We were talking about. I just mentioned Alabama football, and we were talking about what they were, what they weren't after Bear Bryant. They actually went before Nick Saban took over. There were 6 coaches between Bear Bryant and Saban. That included Ray Perkins. Remember him from New York Giants fame, correct? Perkins, who never won the SEC, won 10 games once, 9 games once, had a losing season in there, and won the Sun Bowl and the Sun Bowl twice in the Alamo Bowl, not exactly where Alabama expects to finish. He was replaced by Bill Curry, who actually went to the Sugar Bowl in 1990 and lost. He had one 10-win season in his looks like his 4 seasons, or I'm sorry, 3 seasons as head coach. He had a 7, a 9, and a 10-win season. He was replaced by Stallings, who did win a national championship. That was in 92. And Stallings did, yeah. He was 13-0 that season. Had an 11-1 season in there, a 12-1 season in there. Did have apparently some other issues because they have, I'm noticing it looked like they had to forfeit some wins in one of those seasons due to NCAA infractions. That was in 93. Mike DeBose replaced him and did not do so well. Had a 4-7 season and a 3-8 season. And Dennis, Alabama would like to forget him, even though he did win the SEC and they went to the Orange Bowl in 1999. So, but his overall mark as Alabama head coach was, 24-23. Very, very unimpressive. And then 2 seasons after that with Dennis Francione, who went 7-5 and 10-3. And then the guy that's made Alabama fans say, we've got to do something different here. That was Mike Shula, if you remember. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes,
4 years of Shula.
He's not his father.
Definitely not. Definitely not Don. Shula was 4-9 his first season, 6-6 playing in the Music City Bowl that they lost to Minnesota. In 2005, Alabama ended up going 10-2 and then vacated all those wins due to, again, rules infractions. And the same thing in 2006. They went. It looks like they went 7-6. I'm sorry, 6-7, and had to vacate those wins as well, and lost in the Independence Bowl. So they ended up with a losing record. And that was when Saban took over. And since then, Alabama has been a juggernaut. They have won 10 or more games in every season.
Yeah, you know what that was? That was the boosters saying, we don't want to ever go to a bowl game in Shreveport ever.
And nothing
again.
against Shreveport. I've been to Shreveport. It's a nice city, but yeah, that's not where, if you're Alabama, that's not where you want to be playing. Under Nick Saban, they went 7-6 and had victories vacated. Again, that was not necessarily anything to do with Saban. That was all, I think, stuff that was going on under Shula. So, but other than that 2007 season, Saban has won 10 or more games every single season he's been there. So his mark with Alabama is just ridiculous. So they did kind of have a little moment where they were not the dominant Alabama team that that they are now, but still better. Like you said, you could be, you could be a team like the Rutgers, right? You live in New Jersey, and the Rutgers are, what would you rather?
0-9 in 0-9 in conference, 1-11
Would you
overall
rather
this year.
be Alabama and win 8 games and kind of struggle here and there and go to the Music City Bowl or the Independence Bowl, or would you rather be the Rutgers and basically be beaten every single Saturday or whatever game day your game happens to be scheduled on? Yeah. So I think that's all we really.
Yeah, as I'm looking. Yeah, you want to talk about how bad Rutgers is. Rutgers is on an 11-game losing streak, which is the largest in Division I.
I'm not really sure they should have gone to the Big Ten, but that's a thing, and they're not going to be getting much better, I don't think, in the foreseeable future. I think doormat is probably going to be the best way to describe them. What was the old joke we always used to have? When in doubt, bet against the Rutgers. Well, I think that's a thing again. So, but I think that's about time to wrap it up. I don't really know what else there is to say about the national title game other than it's going to be a really good game. And
I didn't make my prediction though. You've glossed over.
Well, you can't pick correctly, and I pick incorrectly if I don't let you make a prediction. That's kind of the way that works. But I will.
Well, the funny thing was, I really was thinking Alabama and the over, and now I'm beginning to double think that over now that you've made the call. But like I said, I think these two are the best two teams in college football. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that Alabama and Clemson are very likely to meet again next year in the national title game, and it may be a little different because Clemson has so many young players. I'm going to take Alabama again because as we talk about, Clemson's just super young, and we didn't mention that they have some players that apparently tested positive for some performance enhancing drug, including one of their defensive linemen. And they're out for this game. So, you know what? When in doubt, bet
Alabama.
Bet with Saban. So, yeah. So I'm going to take Alabama and the over. I don't think the over is going to actually be that close. I think I would probably still take the over if it was 10 points higher. Let's put it that way. So, but the line, I think the line is probably about right somewhere. I think Alabama will win by a touchdown, maybe 10 points.
Sounds right. I can get behind that. I think we'll be on the same page with that. So we'll see if we're surprised if Clemson can pull off an upset, or if this will be yet another instance of Nick Saban wasting another trophy up. So on that note, we will be back with another edition of Excruciating Minutia. Next time we are around, we're going to be delving into the hot stove, or as you said, the cold stove of Major League Baseball this offseason, and talk about, again, big money bets as we discuss the future location of one Bryce Harper, amongst other notable free agents still available out there on the market. But until then, I'm Randy, and Stephen, thank you again for joining us on Excruciating Minutia. Stephen, if you'll sign us out, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow us on Twitter at Excruciating Podcast, and also check out all of our other podcasts on YouTube, and soon to come to iTunes and Google Play and just about anywhere else you can find podcasts. And if you like what you heard, come back and let a friend know, and trying to build our audience here, and more positive press we can get from people, that would be great. And look for us on Twitter, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.